Hey Stampers, this is Kathy Hansen, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful card using the Celebrating Sunflowers stamp set from Stampin' Up! The inside of it has a special little fold so that when you open it, these little sunflowers pop up for you. So I'm going to show you how to make that as well. So to begin with, we have these pieces parts. This is the card base. This is the little piece that's going to go on the inside, and I'm going to show you first how we did that. It's easier for me to put that in first. We made this card at Stamp Camp North this past weekend in Westminster, and had a really fun time with it. So to begin with, this piece of paper, oh, and by the way, in case you're not familiar with this yet, I have all the measurements for this card at kathyscraftroom.blogspot.com, so you don't have to go crazy trying to write down all the numbers as I go, because sometimes I forget to say all of them anyway. But this little piece was actually fairly easy to create. What I did is I took my scoring board, and the first thing I did, the piece of paper is 5 1/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches. And the first thing I did with it is I scored it halfway at 4 1/8 inches, which is halfway, 1/2 of 8 1/4 right here. The next thing I did is I measured. I'm going to use my fun little itty bitty ruler from Junior Achievement, which I've had for a long time. And I measured from the center, I measured over 2 inches, and I put a little notch there. And then from the top, I measured 2 and that's a little over 2 5/8 inches. I'm sorry, a little over 2 3/4 inches. I think it was supposed to be 2 3/4 inches, but it got a little bigger as I went because you know what I did? I cheated. Once I made my first card with this fold, since I was making so many of them, after that, I guess it's easier to see what I'm doing from here. What I did, there's too much light here. Maybe if I turn out some of these, there won't be quite. No, I think the light's coming from somewhere else here. There, maybe that's a little better. Okay, so what I did is I measured, this is the 2-inch measure, this is the 2 3/4 inch measure. And you can see, maybe, that this scoring board is pretty old. There are little notches in it at 4 1/4 because I score a lot of paper for cards, and I was able to see that, so I lined up those little notches so that they hit the top part of that and then down below right where that white mark is, and then I scored, and then I flipped it over and I scored again just to make sure that it was going to be nice and flexible as I was working with it. So now we have, once you have this fold, then all you have to do is fold in at this line because we scored that first, and then these folds will pretty much automatically fall into place. And then you have this nice little piece for the inside. You know what I did? I was going to tell you, after I made the first one, I cheated. I took a little post-it note and I cut out a corner of it, and that's why this little line got a little bigger. And it really doesn't matter how big this little area is. It depends on what you're going to be putting on it, and you can make that as large or as small as you want. But for this particular card, I thought this was the optimum size for this little fold. So this little tool helped me, because then all I had to do for the rest of them was just line it up with that sticky note instead of going in and marking each one of these pieces of paper for the kits that I was making. So the way I put this on the inside of the card is a little different than what you might think. Oops, I almost had an avalanche over there. That wouldn't have been good. It would have been pretty noisy. Okay, so if you open up the card and you just put glue here and try to lay it down, what's going to happen is when you close that card, that white paper is going to buckle and get a little wrinkled on the inside, and you don't want that to happen. So instead, what I did is I left it folded the way it is here. I took my adhesive, and I'm using my Stampin' Seal today. I took my adhesive and I put that just here around the edges. I think I'm using my there we go. I put it around the edges of this piece. And then just for good measure, I put it also another little piece right kind of down here because, you know, I always like to have plenty of adhesive. Well, this isn't cooperating with me right now, so let's try the Stampin' Seal Plus. Maybe that's working a little better. That's probably what I should be using for the inside anyway, because it's a little stickier than the Stampin' Seal, and this might get a little wear and tear. So once I got this finished, I'm going to turn it upside down to do this because it's easier for me to see that way. But right here is the score line. You can kind of see that. What I'm going to do, this is the folded edge, so I'm going to bump that up right against that fold line, not over the score line, just right up against it, and I'm going to make sure that it's lined up here along the edge, and it looks pretty good there to me, pretty centered. And then what I'm going to do is put a little adhesive on the opposite side. And then a little bit here as well. And then I got a little rambunctious with my tape here. I went over the edge, so I'm going to fold that back so it doesn't get goopy. Okay, then all you have to do is take this whole thing, fold it over, give it a little rub, and look at that. Now it's in there, and it's not going to, I did get a little bit crooked. That's not the greatest thing in the world, but it'll do okay for now. And then when you close it, you're not going to get that wrinkle in there that you would otherwise get. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add my little flowers for the inside. And I have, this is actually the same stamp as this is. I just stamped it, I masked this one, and then I stamped it again to get the one under it so that I could have two of them together because I wanted to put those right here. And if you get too, I didn't put adhesive on the back of this piece because if you get too much adhesive and it goes over to here, it's not gonna operate the way it should. Or if you don't get it here, if you have a lot of adhesive and you close it, that adhesive is going to end up here on the inside, and then you'll never be able to open it without kind of messing up the paper. So what I did instead is I put my adhesive just right here. I put a little bit, doesn't need much. And then I laid my flowers over top of the adhesive. And then that way I know I'm not getting a lot of excess adhesive all over the place. And then also what I did, and the one thing you want to notice, it doesn't matter how far up you get this. It's not going to interfere with the top of the card because check this out. As you close it, these flowers are folding down into the card. So you still have that nice even edge across the top. And then this little flower, I wasn't real sure where I wanted to put it, but I just kind of finally ended up deciding I wanted it right here. And then it's just a nice little grouping of flowers. And that flower, oops, there's the avalanche I was predicting. And then that is just right up against this fold. You don't want to go over the fold because that'll fold the flower. But that's all I did on the inside of this card. For the front, I have all these pieces parts. This piece is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, and that is just a piece of white cardstock. It's the mat for what's going to be following. And I'm going to line that up as square as I can. There we go. And you know, now I'm seeing why that was a little crooked on the inside, because I actually folded it a little crooked. That's not lined up right here the way it should have been. My bad. So this little piece is Bumblebee cardstock, and this piece is 4 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches, and I embossed it with this really cool embossing folder. This is called Time Worn Type 3D embossing folder, and it is just cool. I've used it several times now. It's got print on it, so you can kind of make out words here and there, but not really much of it. And then it's got just this stuff on it that kind of, it's raised. You can see it a little closer here, so you can see here where the words are here and there, and then it's just got this stuff over top of it. So that's what's going to go on top of this, and I need to turn it this way because oh no, I was right the first time. Because you kind of can make out the letters, so if it's upside down and people are paying attention, they would notice that it's upside down. Okay, so we have, oh, you know what? I was right this time. Now this, because I see a capital A right there. Okay, so this is just going to go over top, and it's not a real wide edge. It's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then the next thing I did is I took these two pieces, and by the way, I colored these with these markers. I used these beautiful markers, and the sunflower petals were done. The darker ones are Bumblebee, the lighter yellow is Daffodil Delight, and then around the edge of this, right in the center, I put Mossy Meadow, right in the very center here. And then around that, I put Early Espresso in that dark area. And then I used, this is Soft Suede, so there's like little dots. I'll hold this a little closer, little dots around the edge. So I kind of dappled that, and also right up next to the Early Espresso with this Soft Suede. And then I colored over this center part with Crumb Cake. And on the leaves, I don't have the marker here, but the outside part of it was Old Olive, and then this inside part I colored with the Mossy Meadow. So now you know what colors I used. This piece, I just wanted to glue that directly onto the paper. So that's what I did. And that's just going to go right about here. I think that's pretty good. And then this sunflower I wanted to pop up because I think it looks a little bit more lifelike if it's got a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to use these bigger Stampin' Dimensionals for this. We also have smaller ones, but I put quite a few on there because I want to make sure it's not going any place, and I want to also make sure that it stays popped up. So to that end, I generally put one in the middle because when you mail things, it seems like the centers of things kind of push down, and they get suction under them or something, and they don't stand up as well as they should. So I'm just going to remove these backings and put this over the leaves. So that's just going to go right here. Then I have my autumn greetings. This piece is 1 inch by 4 inches, and I used it to mat this smaller piece. This I actually generated on my computer, and I used oh, what was that font? I think the font that I used was Script MT Bold in size 36. And I inserted a little color. I did a black outline on it. I messed around a little bit with the font, did a black outline, and then I used this kind of a, it's almost Cajun Craze color that I put inside the letters. Hold that a little closer so you can see that. And this piece is 3 3 3/4 inches long and 3/4 inches from top to bottom. So I am just going to put that onto the back, kind of measure here and make sure that it's about the same from side to side. Looks like it is. Close enough. And then again, I used the dimensionals to pop that up because I wanted it to pop. I guess I don't know any other word to use for that. And again, I like to put some in the middle. I know some people just put them on the outer edge, but they do have a tendency to sink in, so I pretty much usually put them all the way across. And then that's just going to go right here at the bottom. And that is the end of the card. The card is finished. And here we are again with the inside. And I hope you enjoyed this card. It was a lot of fun to make. The ladies at Stamp Camp enjoyed it, and I enjoyed putting it together. Thank you for visiting again today.